The Ain't No Fang podcast. From Arizona Sports, Ain't No Fang.
Welcome into the Ain't No Fang podcast, Arizona Sports Diamondbacks show. I'm Alex Weiner, and today we are joined by USA Today baseball insider Bob Nightengale to preview the trade deadline, which is tomorrow. It's just Thursday. It's at 3 o'clock Arizona time. The Diamondbacks have already traded Josh Schnell and Randall Grichuk. More moves are expected. And so here we go. Here's my conversation with Bob to preview all things Diamondbacks at the trade deadline. All right, Bob Nightengale from USA Today joins the show. Bob, I really appreciate the time, especially at this time of year. I know you just got back from Cooperstown. The trade deadline is Thursday. It's just about 28-ish hours away. How's everything going?
Yeah, good. It's usually the calm before the storm where you have a little activity on the 24 hours beforehand. Then everybody really kicks in beginning Thursday morning. Then there'll be a flood of activity.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it kind of trickling in the last couple of days. We saw Sir Anthony Dominguez go from Baltimore to Toronto, where he switched clubhouses and ended up pitching a few minutes after getting traded. This morning, we had Austin Slater going from Chicago to the New York Yankees. I guess my first question is just how busy do you expect this deadline to be, since we're starting to see it trickle in, but not quite a full flood yet?
We'll see a lot of names. There's not any difference makers, really aren't. I mean, Eugenio Suarezz is the best position player there. Sandy Alcantara from Miami would be the best pitcher. And then, just a lot of names, a lot of relievers, starters, but everybody's got their blemishes. I mean, Alcantara has been very erratic and has pitched very poorly until late. Suarezz, can be erratic at times, got the big power numbers. Then, of course, defensively average at best. So, but yeah, there's not one guy, including Suarezz, I'd say, okay, now this team's going to go to the World Series. I think, if we have any look at Giants with Rafael Devers, people said, okay, here they come. They're going National League West, but they got the worst record in baseball since they made the trade.
Yeah, I know, and they're starting to look like they're falling by the wayside a little bit in that race. You mentioned Suarezz. You wrote this morning that the Astros are, tied again to bringing back Carlos Correa, potentially Nolan Arenado, who vetoed a trade to Houston over the offseason. And Suarezz could be another option, as Isaac Paredes is injured right now. What do you make of Suarez's market and how it's kind of evolved over the last, weeks or so? I mean, the Yankees, they got Ryan McMahon to fill their third base spot, but there seems to be still plenty of suitors for him.
No, plenty of suitors. I mean, everywhere, a lot of his former teams, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Detroit, whether it's Cincinnati, they all had him and trade him. Philadelphia's got interest. So is Houston. People I talked to said that, the Diamondbacks won't get the haul that they were envisioned. They'll get a nice package, but, particularly because it's a rental and everything else, that I don't think it's going to be a haul where everybody says, oh my God, I can't believe that's what they got for Suarezz. So I think that's why that trade's going to come down late, that the Diamondbacks will just wait for the final best offer and then go from there.
Do you think his recent, I don't know if slump, but I guess his recent skid and his recent, getting hit by a pitch in the hand, do you think that has anything to do with possible outcome for the market?
No, I think it's more that, a year ago he was almost released.
Yeah. Then
he turned it on when he's hitting 255. So it's not like he's been consistent for, 5-6 years. If that was the case, he wouldn't have been traded 3 times. So I think the fear is, okay, he comes to a new place. It always takes time to adjust. Will he go... will he take off, or will he be starting off in a slump? And a lot of players start off in slumps.
Right. With Suarezz, the D-backs, they made their trade for Naylor, sending him to Seattle. They traded Grichuk over to Kansas City. They still have Gallen, they still have Merrill Kelly, and they still have Suarezz. Do you anticipate all 3 of those guys being moved at this deadline, or is it looking more like 2 of the 3? What do you kind of expect there?
I think all 3. I think, I don't know why those reports earlier on that it was going to be Gallen or Kelly. It made no sense. If you're going to do a sale, go full way. Don't go half. I mean, Diamondbacks no good at all to keep Gallen or Kelly for half a year when you're on the race. So, no, I'd be stunned if they're not all traded.
I guess for someone like a Kelly who's been open to, if they traded me, I'd be open to coming back. What are some of the, difficulties with you trade a guy away with the idea that maybe we can negotiate and bring him back as a free agent? Are there any sort of roadblocks to potentially being able to do that?
The biggest roadblock is just someone, falls in love with the place they were traded to, and also kind of opening eyes. It's not the case for Kelly. It's going to be the case for Gallen, who's never played anywhere else. In the sense, I remember when John Lester got traded from Boston to Oakland, he had every intention of re-signing with Boston, never wanted to leave. But once he got traded, he goes, hey, the grass is green on the other side. I can handle this. Next thing you know, he signs with the Cubs. They win a World Series. So Boston thought they were getting him back. And once he left, he said, you know what? It's okay. I can handle pitching for someone else.
Yeah, that's right. And, we see it kind of on both sides there. Jack Flaherty coming back to Detroit. So there's some examples, but you never really know when a guy leaves if you can ever realistically bring them back. I want to ask you a little bit about the National League because you mentioned the Giants, and they're already 5 games out of the wild card, which seems kind of crazy to believe given how close they were just recently. And the Cardinals are only a half game up on the Giants. Is this wild card race starting to look like a 2-team race for that third spot between San Diego and Cincinnati? And what are you expecting for San Francisco and St. Louis?
I think San Francisco stays pat. Before I thought they were going to buy, but it makes no sense. That team is crumbling. They're in a free fall right now. Be interesting to see what happens to Bob Melvin. Does he retain his job? They extend him recently, picked up that option, but things are going bad there. So I don't think they're going to buy. Obviously Diamondbacks selling, but yeah, you may be right, Alex. I think Cincinnati's still in there, in San Diego. I'm not sure anybody else is going to be there. I mean, we should have the Brewers and Cubs both in the playoffs for sure. Phillies and Mets. So yeah, you're probably right. Leaves those 2 teams.
Yeah, we might have a situation where we actually get 2 teams per division into the postseason. I don't know if we've had that since the third wild card team, at least in the National League, has been in effect. With the Diamondbacks now. I want to start with another team because you mentioned the Brewers, and I'm really interested in what the Brewers are doing because they currently have the best record in the major leagues. And this is a team that continued to sell off pieces but just kind of replace them internally and keep churning it out. And now they just, crushed the Cubs these last couple of games to really take a lead in that division. What do you make of this? Like, how are they possibly doing this?
The magical formula. They're the Player Association worst nightmare because they show you don't have to have a big payroll. Mm-hmm. Payroll every year is $90-100 million less than the Cubs. And they dominate the division. You saw them in April. They looked terrible. They traded away Devin Williams, their all-star closer. Let the all-star shortstop go, and Willie Adames, and they can produce pitching for sure. And made great trades. They got Quinn Priester for nothing. They just picked up Andrew Vaughn. Now it looks like Babe Ruth on that team. So they used to do things right there. Dangerous team. One of these years are going to crack that ceiling and get to the World Series again.
Yeah, it just feels like you put yourself in the fight enough times that eventually, at some point, you're going to get there. It looked like in 2018 that was going to be the team to possibly do it. I think they lost in Game 7 to the Dodgers, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so back to the Diamondbacks on the last couple of notes here, just because this is a team that has looked pretty lifeless over the last week or so, really since that Astros series back at home. They've lost 4 games in a row now. They're not really scoring many runs. Just in covering the sport, the way that you've covered the sport over these years, how have you seen the deadline be kind of a weight lifted off of a team's shoulders potentially for a club that's going through so many trade rumors, doesn't really know who's going to be here and who's not going to be here come the trade deadline, because it looks like they're really scuffling right now?
Yeah, it'll probably get worse. There's no worse feeling, particularly among veterans, knowing the team's not going for it. When the front office is selling parts, it's okay. They don't believe in us, so why should we believe in us either? The atmosphere gets, dead in the clubhouse. Just brings everybody down. Nothing against the Diamondbacks. It happens to all the teams that don't do anything. Where on the flip end, if your team going for it and bringing new parts, man, that clubhouse is lively the rest of the way. So it's just the spirit of it. I'm not sure, their struggles are going more for the weight of the deadline, but just the fact that the front office is dealing away pieces, and they know they're not going to be playing in October, so it's tough to get motivated.
Yeah, it's hard to do what the Tigers did last year, where they trade off a few pieces and then out of nowhere just get red hot and make a run to the postseason. how rare is that for a team to lose as much talent as the Tigers did last year and be able to do that? Because I think, it's hard to convince yourself that it's a possibility of that happening when it happens so infrequently. And yet, if there is something to hold on to, it's like, okay, what if, they come out and they can just find some sort of identity down the stretch of the season, even though it's probably too late anyway.
Yeah, that was stunning. I can't recall a team, waving the white flag and then still making the playoffs despite the front office's efforts. Usually, sometimes they'll surprise you with a team not doing anything, but not, trading away their number 2 starter and doing that. So very surprising. And I can't think of a recent example of that happening. Usually it's, when you start dumping players, it's like what the Diamondbacks are doing. You just go in a free fall that, they know it's over. They can say what they want. And, the manager, GM can say, hey, we're still in this thing. They know they're not in it. If they were in it, they would have kept everybody or added on.
Right.
So, no, it just continues.
Okay, so we talked about Gallen, Kelly, and Suarezz. Is there anybody else potentially that you've heard could be moved from the Diamondbacks, even somebody possibly with, years of control left? Like I remember seeing a report about Jake McCarthy recently. Is there anybody like that you could see?
I can certainly see McCarthy or Alex Shamus type thing. I mean, McCarthy has been on the trade block for a long time. Teams have wanted him. Unfortunately, his value has plummeted. Yeah. And yo-yoing between the major leagues and the minor leagues. So he does not have nearly the appeal that he once did. Thomas, the great defense. People still worry about the offense, so he could get moved. Gurriel could get moved, and certainly in the bullpen with a big Seguinco, that sort of thing.
Okay. So we still got a day and change until the trade deadline. Bob, I know this is a busy time of year, so thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat about the deadline with us.
A pleasure. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks so much to Bob for joining us. The Diamondbacks do not have a game on Thursday, which is deadline day. Again, it's 3 p.m. Arizona time, and that's the mark to watch out for. So keep it locked in on Arizona Sports as we cover all things D-backs at the trade deadline.